All right, diving in today, we've got this Men's Health Total Body Workout booklet that someone sent our way.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of workout plans out there. So,
Yeah.
Today's mission is to kind of cut through all that noise and see, what are the core pieces of wisdom in this 4-week plan for, anyone looking to build muscle and, get stronger overall.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's, stands out to me right away is that this is, kind of comprehensive, right? It takes you through different stages: beginner, advanced, beginner, intermediate, and advanced.
Mm-hmm.
And it really hits every part of your body, arms, chest, legs, your core.
Right. Very thorough, very comprehensive.
Yeah. And I think, what's also smart is that, it's not just sort of like throwing a bunch of exercises at you.
Right.
It's really structured in a way that, it seems like it's going to build on itself. And, they do have some expert input here from Dr. David Pearson from Ball State University. And a lot of his focus is on, not just lifting weights, but doing it with proper form and, consistently challenging yourself.
Right.
So, I think there's a lot of good stuff here.
Yeah, it's almost like learning an instrument, right? You got to start with the basics, and then you kind of build upon that as you get better.
Exactly. Yeah.
So let's unpack this. Let's start with the arms. And one of the things that really jumped out at me was the emphasis on real muscle growth.
Right.
Not just getting that pump after a few reps.
Yeah.
And it really seems like the key here, the plan emphasizes, is consistently lifting heavier weights, but with good form. Right. That seems to be the principle.
Yeah, absolutely. And, for beginners, I think the arm routine, it's all about introducing your muscles to resistance training and establishing kind of that foundation.
Yeah.
They recommend working your arms 3 times a week as part of a full body workout.
Okay.
Notice, the 1-minute rest between exercises. I think that's a good way to keep things efficient.
Moving.
Yeah, and the progression is simple. Aim to add 2.5 to 5 pounds each week.
Okay.
The exercises are, your classic builders. Your dumbbell curls, barbell curls, the French press, triceps push downs.
Mm-hmm.
And this phase lasts for 4 to 8 weeks, or until you just can't add weight week to week anymore.
Right. Very foundational approach. So now what if, you're not a complete beginner, you've got some experience under your belt, and you move to this advanced beginner level? Still 3 total body workouts a week, but it changes the way you kind of think about the weight, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So here you're aiming to increase the weight by, again, 2.5 to 5 pounds, but for each set within that exercise.
Yeah.
So instead of just week to week, it's every set you're pushing a little bit harder. The rest between sets also increases to 2 minutes, which gives your muscles a little more recovery time, which makes sense.
Yeah.
What's interesting, though, is the progression strategy. Each week you start with the heaviest weight you successfully lifted in the previous week. So it's a built-in mechanism to kind of keep pushing yourself.
I see.
And after, 3 to 4 weeks at this level, the plan actually recommends kind of a reset.
Okay.
Go back to the beginner exercises, but now apply these advanced beginner guidelines for weight and rest.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. So, keeps things interesting, and it allows for continued strength gains. And, you stay here until, progress slows down again, or you feel ready for kind of more variety.
Okay. So you've built this strength. You're consistently adding weight. What's the next step for arm development? We move into this intermediate level, and that's where the structure of your training kind of shifts a little bit to this split routine, right?
Exactly, yeah. Now you're creating different muscle groups on different days, hitting your arms twice a week.
Okay.
And a key piece of advice from Dr. Pearson is, always train your triceps on the same day that you work your chest and shoulders with presses.
Okay.
And, the reasoning there is, if you train them separately, you could risk overworking the triceps, which could actually hinder your progress on those big compound exercises like the bench press.
I see.
So kind of think of it like, supporting actors in a play.
Okay.
They work best when they're coordinated with the leads.
That makes total sense. Those muscle groups work together.
Yeah.
So what does an intermediate arm workout actually look like? Like, what are the exercises here?
So the technique here involves starting each exercise with the heaviest weight you can manage for 8 to 10 repetitions. If your form starts to break down, reduce the weight slightly for the following sets. Rest remains at 2 minutes. You're still progressing by adding, those small increments of weight week to week. But, variety comes in after about 3 weeks, where you start to mix in some exercises from the beginner and advanced beginner programs.
Okay.
But the crucial thing to remember at this stage is, to avoid doing, 2 bicep exercises or 2 tricep exercises that target the muscle from the same angle. Or, using the same equipment in a single workout.
I see.
So, for example, don't follow a standing barbell curl immediately with a preacher curl or an incline dumbbell curl.
Got it. Okay.
You want to hit those muscles from different angles, and you stick with this level as long as you're, happy with the results you're seeing. So some examples of exercises in this intermediate phase, preacher curls with an easy bar, skull crushers, which is a tricep extension where the weight's moving towards your forehead.
Yeah, okay.
Incline dumbbell curls, close grip bench presses. So, again, it's all about kind of progressively overloading those muscles, but also making sure you're hitting them, from different angles.
So we've moved from like laying the foundation to kind of like more targeted development.
Yeah.
Now for the advanced program, this is for the folks who are really, really looking to push the limits of their arm growth.
Yeah, this is where it steps up in intensity for sure.
Yeah.
The frequency remains a split routine done twice a week. Techniques similar to the intermediate level. Start with the heaviest weight you can handle for, the prescribed reps. If necessary, decrease the weight for subsequent sets. Rest between sets, still 2 minutes. You're still trying to add a little bit of weight each week. However, the emphasis on variety really increases here.
Okay.
So after just 3 weeks, you're swapping out exercises.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and again, really focusing on hitting those biceps and triceps from different angles. And they introduce a lot of different equipment here, cables. Interestingly, though, they recommend only doing this advanced phase for relatively short periods.
Okay.
3 to 4 weeks at a time.
Yeah.
And only 2 or 3 times a year.
Okay.
So, because, you don't want to overtrain, you don't want to burn out.
Right, you got to listen to your body.
Exactly. So, examples of some advanced arm exercises, cable preacher curls, stand-em reverse grip curls with an easy bar, seated concentration curls, decline extensions with an easy bar, cable French presses, reverse grip cable extensions. So, it's a lot of movements.
That's a huge toolbox of movements there.
It is.
What about the forearm muscles?
Yeah.
The booklet mentions those briefly.
Yeah, they do. And basically, the idea is that your forearms are getting a fair amount of work just from gripping the weights.
Right.
During all those other exercises,
right.
And they acknowledge that, dedicated forearm exercises like wrist curls and extensions, those are often skipped.
Yeah.
Simply because, people prioritize, training the larger muscle groups and, there's only so much time.
Right.
You can only do so much.
So you got to be efficient.
Yeah.
Okay. Arms covered from the very beginning to like advanced techniques.
Yeah.
Let's shift our focus to the chest.
Okay.
And I thought the booklet had a really interesting way of thinking about chest training.
Yeah, it does. It makes this kind of distinction between the bench press, which they call an ego builder, and fly exercises, which they kind of label more of a muscle builder.
Interesting.
And the reasoning is that, flies tend to target the pecs more directly,
Okay.
than pressing movements. But, as they kind of humorously point out, a heavy bench press gets you bragging rights at the gym.
Of course. Yeah.
So, so the program, smartly, I think, integrates both.
Gotcha. So got to have the strength and the appearance of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how does this approach start at the beginner level for the chest?
So the beginner chest routine kind of mirrors what we saw with the arms, 3 times a week as part of a total body workout, 1 minute rest between exercises. The goal is to increase the weight each week. The exercises are fundamental, barbell flat bench press,
Mm-hmm.
for that key compound movement, and then the pec deck machine fly for that, more isolated pectoral contraction.
Gotcha.
And, the duration of this beginner phase is the same, 4 to 8 weeks, or until you just can't add weight anymore.
Right. Consistency is key in those
Yeah.
early stages. So now what changes when you move to the advanced beginner level for chest?
So again, still working chest 3 times a week within your total body workouts. The technique, though, evolves to, increasing the weight on each set of an exercise.
Mm-hmm.
The rest period, it goes up to 2 minutes between sets. And the progression involves, starting each exercise with, slightly heavier weight each week. And, this is a really useful addition here. After 3 to 4 weeks, they recommend finding your 1 rep max on the bench press.
Okay.
And they even give you a specific warm-up procedure to do with lighter sets to prepare you for those heavier single lifts.
Okay.
And this is going to give you a good sense of, where your strength is at.
Yeah. It's a smart way to track your progress and set benchmarks.
Exactly.
So how does the split routine now of the intermediate level affect chest training? Yeah. How does that work?
Yeah, so just like with arms, intermediate chest routine becomes part of that split.
Yeah.
So you'll be training chest, shoulders, and arms on one set of days, and then back, legs, and abs on the other, each done twice a week. And, they specifically recommend starting your chest workout with 2 warm-up sets of 8 to 10 reps on the bench press using a lighter weight.
Yeah.
Before you move into your working sets. And importantly, they emphasize the use of a spotter on all your barbell flat bench press sets.
Yeah, safety first.
Absolutely. Especially with those heavier lifts.
Yeah, you got to be careful. So what about the specific exercises, and how do you progress at this stage?
So the technique kind of mirrors that intermediate arm routine. Start each exercise with the heaviest weight you can manage for, 8 to 10 reps. And then, if the form suffers, reduce the weight.
Okay.
Rest between sets is 2 minutes, and that includes those warm-up sets.
Got it.
The goal is still to try to increase that weight week to week. Variety comes in after 3 weeks, where you're going to start alternating between barbells and dumbbells for those pressing movements.
Mm-hmm.
After another 3 weeks, they suggest going back to your original exercises, but changing the order.
Okay.
So for example, doing incline bench presses before flat bench presses.
Mm.
And they also wisely, I think, advise minimizing the number of exercises for smaller muscle groups on these days,
Okay.
to avoid overtraining. So, maybe just 1 exercise each for shoulders, like a lateral raise, biceps, and then either triceps, or you can even skip direct triceps work since you're pressing movements, and dips are going to be hitting the triceps pretty good.
Right. Yeah.
So, some examples of those intermediate chest exercises, barbell flat bench press, multi-angle dumbbell flies, barbell incline bench press.
Okay.
And then alternating weekly between dumbbell decline bench presses and dips,
Mm-hmm.
going for as many reps as possible on those dips.
Yeah.
And then they recommend rotating the angle of your flies every 3 weeks, going from flat to incline to decline.
So a well-rounded approach.
Yeah.
Combining compound movements
Right.
with that more targeted isolation work.
Exactly.
And some smart programming there to
Yeah.
keep things challenging.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, the advanced chest workout, this sounds like where you're really, really focused on moving some serious weight.
It is. The frequency, it actually drops down to training each chest routine just once a week.
Yep.
Maybe on a Monday and a Thursday or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they strongly recommend using a spotter again during this phase.
Yeah.
The technique involves, warming up thoroughly and then starting with the heaviest weight you can lift for the recommended number of repetitions.
Okay.
Rest periods are longer here, 2 to 3 minutes between sets,
Okay.
to allow for full recovery
Yeah.
between those, heavy lifts. And, the goal is to try to increase that weight each week. And, they interestingly advise skipping direct arm and shoulder exercises during this advanced chest phase.
Whoa.
And that's to really allow for, maximum focus and recovery for those, chest workouts.
Gotcha.
So it's, this phase is intended to be, again, relatively short, only 3 to 4 weeks. And it often culminates in testing your 1 rep max on the bench press.
Okay, so a short, intense period, but really focused on maximizing that chest strength.
Mm-hmm.
What do these advanced workouts actually entail?
So they give you two distinct workouts.
Okay.
So workout 1 includes the barbell flat bench press, cable crossovers, rack lockout presses,
Okay.
which are basically partial bench presses that are focusing on the top portion of the movement,
Okay.
and dumbbell incline flies. Workout 2, it features the close grip bench press, the wide grip bench press, dumbbell incline presses, and dumbbell decline flies. And they also highlight, the importance of, using those 3 different bench press grips.
Okay.
The normal grip, which is going to work both your chest and your triceps, the close grip, which puts more emphasis on the triceps, and the wide grip, which is going to kind of target the chest muscles a little bit more directly.
Right. Right. That's great detail on how you can adjust the bench press, to really emphasize different muscle groups. Now, the booklet also includes some key points about, maintaining proper form during the bench press.
Right. Yeah. They really emphasize the kind of that J-shaped path that the barbell should ideally take. It's not a straight up and down motion.
Yeah.
And they stress, keeping those wrists, directly over your elbows to maximize force and to prevent injury.
Yeah.
And then finally, they caution against, excessively arching that lower back.
Okay.
During the lift.
Yeah. So those are crucial form cues for anyone who's, going to get under the bar.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, moving up, let's talk about shoulders.
Okay.
The booklet seems to have kind of like a dual objective here as well.
It does. When it comes to shoulders, the goal isn't just to kind of, build those, show-offy deltoid muscles,
Right.
which, that's what gives you that roundness and fullness.
Right.
Makes your shoulders look big and strong. The plan actually puts a significant emphasis on training the rotator cuff muscles as well.
Okay.
And Dr. Pearson, he points out, the shoulder joint, its wide range of motion makes it inherently a little bit less stable than some other joints. So, strong rotator cuff muscles, those are essential for joint health, for injury prevention.
Yeah.
So the shoulder program aims for both aesthetics and functionality.
Yeah, and that's a really, I think, insightful and often overlooked aspect of shoulder training, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So how does the beginner shoulder program kind of address both of these goals?
So the beginner shoulder training, it's similar to what we saw with the arms and the chest.
Okay.
3 total body workouts per week with 1 minute of rest between exercises. The goal of increasing the weight each week. The exercises they've chosen are the machine shoulder press and the cable upright row.
Okay.
And those are good, kind of introductory movements for learning those basic, pressing and pulling patterns for the shoulders. And this beginner phase typically lasts, 4 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
Or until you hit a plateau, in your weight progression.
Right. So those are solid foundational movements to get those shoulder muscles, working.
Exactly.
What changes when you move to the advanced beginner level?
So you'll still be training shoulders 3 times a week as part of your total body routine. The key difference in technique, though, is you're now going to be aiming to increase the weight on each set of an exercise. And the rest period is going to go up to 2 minutes between sets.
Okay.
The progression strategy remains focused on using, slightly heavier weights each week. And similar to the ARM program, after 3 to 4 weeks, they introduce some variety by having you switch to seated dumbbell presses and standing dumbbell shrugs.
Okay.
And these are actually exercises that are detailed in the intermediate section.
I see.
But you're going to be doing them using the sets and reps recommended for the advanced beginner level.
So you're incorporating those exercises, those movements from the later stages, but with lower volume.
Exactly.
That's an interesting way to keep the muscles challenged.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now let's delve into the intermediate shoulder program and how the split routine influences it.
Right. So with the split routine, you're now going to have kind of 2 distinct shoulder workouts each week, integrated into your chest, shoulders and arms day and your back, legs, and abs day.
Okay.
The technique, it involves, starting each exercise with the heaviest weight that you can comfortably handle for 8 to 10 reps.
Okay.
Assuming that, your shoulders are properly warmed up,
Yeah.
especially if you've just, been doing chest exercises.
Right.
Rest periods remain at 2 minutes between sets. The progression goal is to increase the weight that you're using on those pressing movements and your shrugs each week.
Mm-hmm.
For lateral raises, which are, targeting a smaller muscle group, they suggest aiming to increase the weight every 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
And, the two intermediate shoulder workouts, workout 1 includes seated dumbbell presses, standing dumbbell shrugs, and then lateral raises. To really kind of target those middle delts,
Mm-hmm.
workout 2 features, seated dumbbell presses, standing dumbbell shrugs again, and then bent over lateral raises.
Okay.
And that really specifically targets the posterior or rear delts.
Okay.
And, the booklet, it offers some really valuable insight into, variations of the lateral raise.
Mm.
It talks about how, starting the movement with your palms facing inward and rotating them to face downward as you lift can effectively isolate the middle delt,
Okay.
But it might cause impingement, for some people.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So if you experience any discomfort, switch to a version where your palms are facing outward, throughout the movement. And while that might not, target the middle delt quite as directly,
yeah.
It does tend to engage the rotator cuff muscles more, which, contributes to stability. And they even suggest, alternating between those two variations every few workouts if both feel comfortable.
Right. That's a really nuanced but practical look,
Yeah.
at exercise selection and joint health.
Yeah.
Finally, let's talk about the advanced shoulder program.
Okay.
What's the primary focus here?
So the advanced level continues with that twice a week split routine.
Mm-hmm.
And the core of this advanced shoulder program, it really revolves around 2 key exercises done for 5 sets of 5 reps each.
Okay.
Standing barbell press and the hang and high pull.
Mm-hmm.
However, the way those exercises are executed are quite different.
Okay.
So the hanging high pull, it's intended to be, an explosive, power-focused movement,
Mm-hmm.
whereas the standing barbell press, it's done, more slowly, more deliberately, with a brief pause at the top of each repetition to really maximize that time under tension,
Mm-hmm.
which promotes growth.
Got it.
Rest periods are longer here, between 2 and 3 minutes between sets.
Mm.
Or you can even do these 2 exercises as supersets,
Yeah.
moving directly from one to the other, with minimal rest.
Yeah.
The primary progression goal is to increase the weight that you're using on your final set each week.
Okay.
And they recommend, sticking with these exercises for 3 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Or until you can no longer increase the weight, and then cycling back to some of the other shoulder exercises in the program before returning to this advanced routine.
Sounds like a very, very focused and intense approach.
Yeah, for sure.
Emphasizing both strength and power.
Yeah.
Now, the booklet also mentions these optional rotator cuff exercises at this advanced stage.
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they include exercises, like internal and external shoulder rotations as kind of, optional additions to this advanced program. And they specifically recommend those for people who have been lifting, consistently, for a longer period of time and might have developed some muscle imbalances,
Yeah.
or for athletes who are participating in overhead sports,
Right.
where those rotator cuff muscles are really heavily involved and prone to stress.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. And they make a good point that, beginners typically don't need to focus as much on those isolated, rotator cuff exercises.
Right.
And should really just prioritize, building that overall strength and mass in the deltoid muscles first.
Exactly. Yeah. Get that base.
Yeah, build that base, and then you can kind of address those smaller stabilizers as needed.
Yeah.
Just one last point on shoulders. The booklet also briefly touches on the use of weight belts.
Right.
And the practice of pressing the barbell behind the neck.
Yeah, they do. And they reference some research suggesting that, training without a belt can actually contribute to developing stronger abs and lower back muscles.
Interesting.
And they explicitly advise against, doing barbell presses behind the neck due to, the risk of injury to the shoulder joint.
Yeah, that's important cautionary advice.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's shift our attention to the core, the abdominals, the lower back.
All right, the core.
And the booklet makes a pretty interesting point about visible abs.
It does. Yeah.